A lot of illnesses. I didn't go to the doctor very much. You know, you had a cold, you had a this, you had maybe a strep throat, my wisdom teeth out, and tonsils. That's about it, and I made it through life. I had a great career in cosmetics, and about 4 years ago, I moved up to New York City, and I was living my dream, like, this is so exciting, this is great, this is the mecca of what I'm doing. And about 6 months after I got there, I was exhausted, and I thought, well, it's New York, it's, you know, it's very busy, it's fast paced, but I was gaining weight, I was walking everywhere, I didn't have time to eat. It was crazy. And then I had weird things happen, like my legs were swelling. All these bizarre symptoms. I was like beyond tired. And then I started losing my hair. And this weight gain, tired, like physically just exhausted. I'd be on the train on the way home and I think, oh, you know, when I get home, I'll get, you know, 5 more hours worth of work, and I would get home and I'd be in bed by 8 o'clock. So I fixed this problem by drinking a lot of sugar-free Red Bull, which definitely not good for us. So finally I realized, like, something is not right. Something's just not right, and I figured maybe I must have menopause. So I called my gynecologist, I come down, and like, I've diagnosed myself, and you know, doctors love when you do that. And so I explained to her all the different symptoms I was having, and she said, it sounds more like a thyroid problem. And she's like, is there any history of thyroid in your family? And I said, nope, absolutely not. So we tested for thyroid, and she gave me a great gift. She said, I want you to be an advocate for your health. She said, you tested to, you know, you have a low thyroid. She said, and doctors may or may not treat this accordingly, so please be the advocate for yourself. So I said, okay, I'm gonna do that. And so I'm like, okay, what do I need to do? I need an endocrinologist. So I find an endocrinologist, and I'm like, okay, I've got this low thyroid, what do we need to do? Because I don't have time to be sick, I don't want to be losing my hair, and this addiction to Red Bull, I don't need a doctor to tell me that that is not good for me. So she did this test, on the same test, and put me on levothyroxine. So I have a sister who works for a doctor up in Boston, almost as bad as WebMD. She sends me the panel. She's like, tell them to test you on all those different things. Probably not as extensive as the first list. So I bring the list to the doctor, and they love, you know, when you Google something, you ask them to do it. So she said, at first she didn't want to do it, and I said, you know, I'll pay out of pocket. They did the test, and you know what? Nothing changed. It was still levothyroxine. So I was like, this is interesting. So then I really start Googling, because I'm taking this medication, I'm still losing my hair, I'm still tired, my legs are still full, and I'm kind of like, I'm at the gym 3 times a week, not losing an inch, nothing. So I do a little Googling, I go back into the endocrinologist, and I say, okay, I've done a little research on the internet, and you know, I've found out that maybe if I give up gluten, you know, that might work, that could be a sensitivity. And she said, well, you can try it. And I said, well, I said, help me here. I said, because if there's something that I'm supposed to eat, let me know, I'm going to eat it. If there's something I'm not supposed to eat, let me know, and I won't eat it. And she literally said, we don't do that here. And I felt like shocked, because I was like, you're a doctor, and I'm asking for help, and I'm thinking that I want to do something that's supposed to be good for me. And she said, what we do is we test your blood every 3 months, and we adjust your medication. So I have to tell you, the first time I heard Dr. Wander say that, I was like, I wasn't losing my mind. This is how they treat it. So I was a little bit frustrated, and then I said, there's got to be something I can do. And she said, well, you know, you can go see somebody on your own, a nutritionist, if you want to. So I said, okay, well, I think I'll do that. And then literally as I'm walking out the door, she says, oh, by the way, you have Hashimoto's. That's actually autoimmune. This is how she tells me as I'm walking out the door. So now this has completely changed everything. And I am still so tired. I'm taking this medication, still losing my hair, and I really can't keep up the work pace in New York. It just was too much for me. And so I just decided I had to make a life decision, and a series of events conspired, and I was able to move back to Maryland, which is where I'm from. And I moved back here last October, November, and I was determined to find a solution. And I came upon Dr. Wander, and I was amazed. And I was so excited, because I honestly had hope for the first time. Because the worst part that I went through was nobody believed me, because I didn't look sick. You know, with Hashimoto's, you don't look sick, and when you tell people you're tired, they think you're complaining. And it was scary, it was frustrating, and it was lonely, because even my sisters didn't believe me. So you just really felt like I was complaining all the time. So I came to see Dr. Wander, and again, I heard this, and all the things that he was saying were so true. All of the symptoms were true. People not talking about it. And then the thing that shocked me the most was all these different symptoms and all of these people on the same medication. So he talks about being dedicated. I think I met him in December. Finally in December, it was about 2 weeks before Christmas, in the throes of the holiday season, and I was like, sign me up, whatever I have to do, I'm gonna do. Giving up Red Bull was one of them, but I had to go through this detox. I went through this whole detox right before, literally like 8 days before the holidays, like no sugar, no alcohol, no caffeine, no dairy, like nothing. But you know what? It was amazing. The other thing for me was I was a vegetarian, so I thought. So I was eating literally everything wrong for me. So that was the other part with this endocrinologist. I mean, literally everything that I was putting into my body was like peanut butter and wheat toast, bagels, pizza. You know, it's New York, so if you're hungry, you know, you grab a bag of M&Ms. Honestly, since I've been in the last year, I feel so much smarter. And I can't believe how uninformed I was as a grown adult. You know, like yes, on the surface I knew a bag of M&Ms probably wasn't good for me, but I didn't realize, you know, today I carry around either clementines or a mandarin with me, and it's just as sweet and it's so much more satisfying, and it's amazing. So I did have to confess to Dr. Warner that I was a vegetarian. He said, you're probably gonna have to eat fish or meat. And again, I was so willing, and I thought, you know what? I can't help any of the animal classes, and I can't do anything because I'm not doing any extracurricular activities as it is if I don't get healthy. So I'm going to do whatever I need to do. And I remember the first morning, I was actually traveling for business, and I was in a hotel, and I was like, I need to eat protein now. And so I asked for an antibiotic, no GMO, like what kind of meat do you have like that? And they're like, we have a chicken sausage. So I was like, wow, this is going to be my first entry back into meat. That I was scared to death, but I have to tell you, I felt great. And I got that connection, like I have been depriving my body of all the things that it needs. So I went through all the testing. I cannot tell you, I look at food now as fuel, you know. I always have this. So I went through this whole process, and I started to feel amazing. And we did the supplements and everything, and I started to feel so much better, and my hair stopped falling out in clumps. And I have to tell you, as a woman, I literally, in those first 6 months when that happened, I would literally get out of the shower and I would look in the mirror and I would sob. I mean, I would just sob hysterically because there was just all of this hair there, and I just was devastated. From a cosmetic vantage point, from a vanity standpoint. But once I started working with Dr. Wander and started feeling better, and you know, the good news was first my hair stopped falling out. The better news is now a year later, it's starting to grow back. I'm smarter about food. I make great decisions now. I remember probably about 3 months in, I cheated on Dr. Wander and I had ice cream, and I was like so devastated over the weekend. I was like, how am I going to tell him this? And so I showed up for an appointment on Monday because the most important thing, and getting this good feeling, was I didn't want him to kick me out. So, but I also knew I had to come clean because I didn't know if like I'd messed up the whole study. So I said, you know, Dr. Wander, I had ice cream over the weekend, and he said, how did it make you feel? And I said, ridiculously guilty. And he's like, no. He's like, physically, how did it make you feel? Because that was his concern. And I was like, you know what? It was awful. You know, awful from a standpoint, of course, it tasted good on the first 2 spoonfuls, but my body had changed so much that ice cream is no longer appealing. You know, theoretically it's appealing, but I had that experience of putting it in there. That's why I say, you know, I eat smarter now. A mandarin is so much more satisfying, and I never thought in a million years that I would say that that would be preferable to a bag of M&Ms. But thank God, it is true. The testing is extensive. It's and when I say extensive, it's interesting. But the results are amazing, and I don't know how Dr. Wander's mind works, but it's incredible all the information he retains, and that he can look at that one chart that he put up and told you, well, but he's gone through that with me and has said, you know, here's where we are, here's what we're going to do, and here's what we're going to change. It has been an incredible journey. Health-wise, I've never felt better. Now I'm back in a new gym here. I have more energy. I sleep so much better, except when the cat wakes me up, but that's nothing that we can do about that. And again, it's the outside stuff, but it was really, it was so amazing, and life changing for me to be able to work with somebody and know that these symptoms were not my imagination and they didn't just have to go away. You know, and I look at my friends now, and I'm always trying to be an advocate for, you know, if you're tired or you're having these symptoms, you know, check it out, get your thyroid checked and see what happens. So I cannot tell you enough what an incredible journey this is. I'm indebted to Dr. Wander and his entire staff, who are super nice and so much fun, for the rest of my life, because I am forever changed, and I have, you know, I have hope of a life that, you know, I really was thinking I wasn't going to ever do anything fun again, because I just didn't have any energy. So thank you so much for letting me come up and share that with you.
Thank you for coming.